We'll just give everybody a chance to join us there. But I just want to say a very welcome to everyone to our Coping with Summertime Blues webinar. And looking out at the window right now, certainly the blues is what it's all about. We've got a lot of rain, but we'll be talking about lots of things, not just weather, in a moment. So I'm just going to stop my share my screen and just introduce myself, and I'll ask actually the panelists to open their videos as well, if that's okay. My name is Margaret Keane, and I'm Education Training and Development Officer here with Midwest ARIES. I am joined today by, I have to say, we couldn't do what we do at Midwest ARIES without them. It's our fantastic facilitator team. So I've got Eileen, Nikki and Mags with me today. We're going to have an honest and safe and open conversation, I hope, on the summertime blues, and in particular coping with the summertime blues. So, what strategies can we do to support our mental health when we're really not feeling it, in the sunshine and even in the rain like this? Some of you, I'm sure, are probably well familiar with what we do, but just in case, if you're not and this is your first time, and if it is your first time either listening or watching or attending live today, we are the recovery education service in the Midwest. So we cover Galway, Limerick and North Tipperary. So we're also actually in the acute psychiatric units. We deliver recovery education in there twice a week, both in Ennis Hospital and in University Hospital Limerick. So as I said, we're here to talk about the summertime blues, but before I do that, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping and let you know how you can interact with us today and keep the discussion lively, because although the panelists will be talking and discussing all these issues, we really want to hear from you. So if you have a question that you'd like to put to the panel, maybe, it might be a question around, coping or even just a bit of reflection, we'd love to hear from you. For that, we don't actually use the chat feature. What we do is use the Q&A. So if you open your Q&A button, it's down there at the bottom, and just put in and submit your question. We would love to hear from you. And you can start that right from the get-go. It's not going to be panel discussion and Q&A. It's all going to happen all together, and it's what makes this great. So the other thing is, I will be, you see my head going down, bobbing down time to time, and apologies for that, but I do have some notes. I've got some questions ready to go. So yeah, just in case if you're wondering what's she doing, that's what I'm doing. I'm just looking at. So we'll be here for about an hour, and yeah, so let's get cracking. I'm just going to pass you through just to say hello. So Eileen, I'll start with you. Do you just want to tell people who you are? And yeah, then we'll start.
Hi Margaret, hi everybody. My own name is Eileen. I'm a recovery education facilitator with Midwest ARIES. Yeah, really looking forward to this. I suppose it's summertime blues and looking out at the weather. It feels like winter time, so it's very interesting. And I suppose to acknowledge that Ireland are playing in the rain in Perth. So with the girls in spirit as well. And yeah, really looking forward to the discussion, Margaret, and looking forward to hearing from the girls as well. And everyone's opinion. So
thanks, Eileen, and again, much love to the girls in green out there in Perth. And yeah, unfortunately, Eileen told me just as we started that Canada had basically even the score. But look, we're with them all the way, and hopefully they won't be experiencing the summertime blues out in Perth out there. But we'll move swiftly on, Eileen, and I'll go to Nikki next. You're next on my screen. Do you want to say hi?
Hi Margaret, I'm a recovery education facilitator with Midwest ARIES as well. My name is Nikki, and I'm really looking forward to this topic because I feel like this is something that isn't acknowledged. I feel like it's not a topic that's acknowledged, and I'm delighted that it's been acknowledged today. And I am absolutely dying to hear what the participants have to ask about this. I'm really curious as to how other people experience the summertime blues, if they do. So yeah, really looking forward to what kind of questions and comments come in as well.
And
Thanks,
Nikki,
Margaret.
Thanks, Nikki. And you know, I'm so glad that you brought that up, you know, because I think people think, oh, you're just Mona, you know.
Yeah.
It is a real thing. It is a real experience, you know, it is a real mental health issue. And I'm so glad, as you said, that we're running it. And actually, just to give a little bit of context, in November 21, we ran our first kind of seasonal change webinar where we looked at that. And obviously we were in the middle of winter at that point. And we followed it up immediately because it was so well attended, and people looked at, we had a lot of views on the video, with another one looking at beating the winter blues. But within both of those came up this idea of the summertime blues, because some people have no problem with winter. Actually, they have that seasonal, and I know Nikki's raising the hand there, you know, winter's great, but it's the summertime where all those things start to come up. So again, Nikki, thanks for naming it. Really appreciate that. And I'm glad we're doing this here today. Mags, we'll come to you next. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, I'm also a recovery education facilitator with ARIES. Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I was kind of doing a bit of research on it this morning, and I suppose I'm a person, I don't like too much heat. And it does I suppose I do like it being dry and a bit of heat, but if you remember back to last year, it was so warm. But I suppose people kind of had to stay inside last year as well because it was just so hot. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Be interesting to see the questions and I suppose the general chat. Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks, Mags. Yeah, I'm again, I burn. I don't like heat. I was just saying earlier, I think my experience of summertime, particularly as a child, had awful hay fever. So it was almost something I really hated coming. I knew around May time, you know, there was going to be periods where I was going to be stuck in a darkened room with the eye streaming and the nose streaming and listen to my friends playing outside, and I just couldn't take part. And I think that set me up maybe not to have the best relationship with summer. And I've been trying to probably offset that for a long time now, given my age. But it's interesting, just that not being able to actually, you know, deal with the heat. It's a huge issue. So I suppose, and look, I just want to say thank you. We've already got a brilliant question in there, and I'm going to come to that in a second because it's so good. But we'll start the way we normally start, which is just kind of, I suppose, trying to define it, just trying to put some kind of idea on it, grasp on it. What is it? So, John, from our own personal perspective, like it's not any clinical definition or anything that we need to get at, but and I think you've kind of already answered this, but first of all, you know, what do you think the summertime blues is? Do you think it exists? And I suppose it's what kept coming into my head, like, aren't we supposed to be happy in the summer months? And is that the problem? Is the problem that we're supposed to be happy part of the deal? So again, just perspectives. Who'd like to come in first on that? Nikki, I know you're nodding the head there. So again, just, I suppose, just get an idea of what it is from your own perspective. Maybe what causes it.
From my perspective as an adult, like I loved summers as a kid, freedom, running around the fields at home. I lived rurally. I still live rurally, but as an adult, I just find that it's pressure. I find that coming into the summer, it's the pressure from external sources, whether it be media, friends, family, about the summer. What's your plans? Oh God, I better make plans. You know, I don't have plans. I better make plans now, you know, and the pressure of having to make plans and the pressure of having to fill the whole calendar and the pressure of having to enjoy it. You're supposed to enjoy all these late, you know, bright evenings, fill it with activities. You know, it's just, I feel like it's constant pressure. And I feel like everybody else seems to be enjoying it to the max and I'm not. And I feel guilty for that. And I feel like I can't say it because I personally feel like, you know, everyone else is enjoying the summer and I am an oddball for not enjoying it so much. So it's pressure. It's my calendar being filled with other people's stuff. There's so much things on and I just feel like it's too hectic for me and I just can't wait for September.
Thanks, Nikki. And I can completely connect with that. Absolutely. That idea of filling the time, filling all that extra time. What are you doing sitting indoors when you should be out doing this X, Y, Z? And I really feel that from you. And again, if you're listening to this and you're connecting with this, put it into the Q&A, have a bit of reflection on it. Because again, if we're going to look at maybe what those issues are, we'll come back to that in terms of, well, maybe how can we, you know, mitigate against that feeling of pressure. And yeah, definitely. Thanks, Nikki. That's great. Mags, I'll come to you next. Just in terms of my screen again, like, you know, if you want to kind of reflect a little bit in terms of what it is, how it feels, if it's something you experience, and it may not be something you experience, Mags. So I don't want to make that assumption either.
Yeah, I suppose I do like a bit of heat, but not too much heat. And as I said last year, then there was the extreme, and you just had no energy. It zaps your energy. I suppose you have to adapt to it. So I suppose for me, as I think Nikki said, the childhood was great, the freedom and all that. But as you get older, there's expectations. Where are you going on holidays? And as Nikki said, yeah, people are saying, you know, where are you going, or have you a barbecue planned, or there's all this expectation. And it could be even just down to the simple thing as having furniture, the summer furniture out, all these things. So I was doing a little bit of research on it, and they say that if you experience a kind of a sadness or a depression during this time of year for over 2 or 3 years, that you actually have SAD. And I always thought it was only the winter time that you get that, because during the summer you have to adapt to the light, you've adapt to change, there's heat, there's a lot more insects around, there's other things around, you have to take all that in. And of course, if you're going anywhere, if you're going to the beach, it's usually packed, especially in Ireland. If there's one good day, it's packed. So I remember last year going to the beach, but I went at 6 o'clock in the morning and I got out there before 10 o'clock. So there's just those little things that, you know, I suppose you have to change and adapt to as well. Yeah.
And thanks, Mags. You know, absolutely. And again, what I'm hearing is those, you know, echoing what Nikki said, and that expectation piece. And I love the fact you brought in, like, the, you know, even getting the right furniture, you know, or you having the barbecue, and then, like, there could be financial implications on that. Maybe you can't afford the barbecue. Maybe you can't afford, you know, maybe, you know, you don't have any garden furniture. There's all these things that kind of come together to, like, pressure. Thanks, Mags. And yeah, thanks for that kind of solution based approach as well. Eileen, we'll just come to you.
Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, to echo the girls' expectations, pressure, and I think the stories that I tell myself about how a season should be, you know, in winter, I have certain expectations, summer, spring, all of those things. And I suppose the narrative I would have always told myself, you know, it's summer, it's time to relax, it's time to do X, Y, and Z. But a lot of the time, your life is the same. You know, your work commitments are the same. Your, you know, outside of work commitments are the same. So even though the season has changed, because the society we live in now, like, we live in a 24/7 society that, you know, you have to work. You're working all of the seasons, and just because it is sunnier outside, you still have to do that work. And I think for me, it's that my own kind of thinking, hang on, it's supposed to be summer, because as a child you would have had the summers off. So you had the time, and for me, it's time, because I'm like, the shoulds, I should be doing this, but at the same time, I am working and I have other commitments. So, you know, and I suppose to echo the girl, and like Mags did a little bit of research, and what I found really interesting, sorry, I'm just checking my notes, that it said women are 4 times more likely to experience SAD in the summer, which I found very interesting. And I just wonder, is that related to body image, again, expectations of that we put on ourselves, but also that the media puts on us, and all those different things that, like we were joking before the webinar, you know, redhead, white skin, I wouldn't even say it's red, you know, like those things have a factor, you know, in enjoyment and things. You know, my idea of going to the beach is not my idea of joy. But those things, I just found it interesting that women are 4 more times likely to experience that in the summer. I thought that was really interesting. And again, family history, you know, if you had a family history of anxiety or depression as well, that, you know, all feeds into, you know, feeling like that in the summer. I'm just I think my internet might be a bit unstable. So
we can see you perfectly. We can see you perfectly, Eileen, and we can hear you perfectly. So don't worry. And
okay.
And
Brilliant.
as we know, and to all you on here before, this is the internet. And believe me, when the weather's like this, it's always a bit dodgy. So please stick with us. And if you do get bounced out, we'd love to come you back in. And same with the
Brilliant.
panelist. Don't leave me hanging, because I'll be sitting here on my own.
Brilliant.
I
Thanks,
definitely will
Margaret.
feel the summertime blues when that happens. But I think that's really interesting, just around the number of women and the higher percentage of women. And I think that's the whole body image thing. You know, and I'm even thinking in terms of, you know, the menopause, because I'm going through that at the moment, and that's fun. You know, sleep disruption and heat and all of that. And that really impacts on your ability just to cope and have, you know, to do all the things that you need to do, never mind go out and look great. You know, so there's a lot of pressure we're putting on ourselves. Everybody is, but I think particularly women, although I do think it's probably changing for men as well, young boys looking a certain way, having to, you know, have a certain body, you know, piece as well. But really, really, really interesting stuff. And we've kind of, I suppose, again, from my own perspective, I think, you know, causes for me would be, you know, certain things have happened during the summertime which have been difficult, and so you have those kind of bereavements, loss of loved ones, you know, that can really, I suppose, they punctuate what should be a happy time, you know. And I tend to, like, if I'm taking holidays, I won't take them around those anniversaries, because I know I'm not in the headspace to actually enjoy it and actually have that downtime. So yeah, and yeah, that's a tricky one to do. So there seems to be lots of different elements to, I think what we've agreed is, from the reading and even from our own experience, that sad issues can happen in the summertime. It's really interesting that there's more women than men, but you know, that's and that there's lots of different things at play when we come to that, and probably the expectations, the social expectations, but probably as well the bits that we have in ourselves to be a certain way and to, you know, have the perfect holiday or whatever. Anyway, thank you for that. I think it's time to go to the Q&A, and I just love this one. And thank you, Kevin, for putting this in. And again, keep these coming, because we have some questions here, but this just gives a different perspective and vibrancy to the chat. So we really do love these. So this is from Kevin. How does one build resilience when working in a home office all the time? I hear you, Kevin. I'm very isolated. Both parents have passed on. I'm sorry to hear that. And I live alone. I get to meet people in a hiking group once per week at most. Thanks. Kevin, do you know what? I get that. And do you know what's absolutely brilliant is the fact that you're actually putting in getting out with the hiking group. But does anyone want to come in on this first off? So in terms of how do you, particularly working from home, now we have that experience in terms of facilitation, lots of facilitators work from home. So we kind of know, we get that, we know what that's like, but it is very isolating. And for donkey's years, I used to work from home, and it's, you know, you don't have those water cooler moments. You don't have those moments to be able to have a chat. Even team building is difficult. So anybody want to come in that in terms of how do you build that resilience up? How do you keep your social connections?
Yeah, I can come in there. I suppose I'm in the same frame that I live on my own and I'm working from home. And it's good that there's the group once a week to go out hiking with. I suppose you just have to try and keep up your social connection. And I think maybe even so during the summer, you're inclined to meet more people, make more appointments to meet people. I suppose with the longer evenings as well. So you'll only be maybe working from 9 to 5. I could be presuming here, but you know, that could be the time frame, and to maybe to get out and meet people after that. And I think that has certainly built up my resilience to cope with coming in for that evening and getting up the following morning and working from home then. And to have that, I suppose, something to look forward to as well. And I think maybe in the summer, it's good to plan a day away, or you know, just a trip. It could be maybe just for one night, just to have something different, a different environment, a different space as well. And I just might go up to my relations for one night and stay there. And it's just take the train. There's no driving. It's just total relaxation, and it really, really, it does me the world of good. I'm really kind of invigorated for maybe another month or two after that. So I suppose there's little ways to do that, but to give yourself and to do something you enjoy as well. If you know, maybe every evening to do something you enjoy. It could be get out for an extra walk, or it could be meet somebody for a coffee, or it could be spending time doing something you like to do. And I suppose we do have the creativity workshop, Midwest ARIES, and there's just something to pick out something from there if you're being creative. What I do a lot during the summer is I do a lot of painting outside, DIY, and that's how I kind of spend my time. So yeah, so there's a few tips there hopefully for you just to build up your resilience.
Thanks, Mags, and just thanks for giving that perspective. You said, like, you know, the similarities there. I think from a work perspective, if, you know, just to try and connect with maybe your work colleagues, if there's anything you can, if there are any opportunities to actually meet up, you know, within either the working week or working month. I know that's something we try and do here. It's not always easy to do, but we do it. I'll just check. I think there's another one coming in there. Oh yeah, thanks, Mags. Kevin's just saying thanks, Mags, to you. Would anyone else like just have a different perspective on that, or any ideas in terms of just keeping that resilience open? And I think isolation is and let's call it, I'm not saying, Kevin, you are lonely, but like loneliness, isolation just seems to be comes up a lot in our workshops, even though we're very connected. And thanks, Kevin, even for coming on today and just being so open and honest about that. Eileen, would you like to come in?
Might come in, Margaret. That's okay. Yeah, thanks, Margaret. I just found as well, just breaking up the day in kind of small little chunks, I find really helpful. So getting up a little bit earlier and actually doing something that for me before work. I was a terror for just kind of getting up an hour before work and then into the working day, and then it's dinner, and then it's and actually it was probably one of our tools in one of our workshops. It said, how would you like to spend your day and how are you spending your day? And I realized there was times I could carve out in the morning just for me. And I suppose for me, I do like being on my own. I suppose to acknowledge that, Kevin, as well. But I've had to work on that. I didn't always like being on my own. It was definitely, that's been a journey. And what I do now is in the morning, I get up and I do a few stretches. I do a few mantras. That's part of my routine. I do walk the dog if it's lashing rain. I actually just put on something positive on YouTube, because I just find if I'm on my own and I'm not in a good place, the last thing I want is the world getting in on me. So I might put on Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, whatever works for yourself, but they're just kind of my go-to. Irving Yalom, it could be anything like that. Just sets me up then, okay, your working day. Then after work, it's about, okay, well, right, if I'm on my own, what's going to nourish me? So again, it could be the walk, but also it could be volunteering, you know, meeting other people, because sometimes, like, we all work in mental health here, I need the opposite of that. So I suppose for Kevin, like, whatever your work is, almost look at what's the opposite of that and to try and find something there. You know, for me, you know, this evening I'm going to a play, you know, it's an outdoor play, you know, just looking for things that actually you could go to on your own, that, you know, isn't a stretch, you know, that actually you're going to, and have a look. I can't talk as well about family resource centres or what is in your community, because there's always something on, whether it be a play or a group or something, and just to find something, especially if you're into hiking. Like, I know, like, there could be another hiking group that is on during the week, or there could be in another county, you know. It's about looking around and finding your tribe, really. So and just to acknowledge, it's not easy, but it's like self-discovery as well. So I just wanted to add that, Margaret.
Brilliant, Eileen. And I love that, you know, piece, the volunteering piece in particular. I think that's a great way, particularly if you find something that you love doing and that you can share that skill set, and it's just a great way to connect. Just in terms of home office, for me, because not everybody has the ability to have a home office and close the door and walk away from it. I think you know, just have something where you can actually close down. If you're working and living in the same space, have something that you can just put it away, whether it's a laptop in a box and some files, but literally that is, and kind of almost reclaim your home space. because it's very difficult going from one to the other and demarking that area. Actually, you just reminded me there when we first started our training, our facilitators back in 2020 when they first came on, and Eileen will remember this, we ran a little self-care piece in it. It was just, you know, again, how to deal with that home office situation. And I remember one of the facilitators said that basically she had a shower when she finished work to break that cycle and to almost finish the day and to just cleanse and restart, that she would like have a shower, and that would be the end of her day, and then it would just free her up and free her mind and just get her out of the mindset, and it was almost like washing away all those cares. I hope, Nikki, unless do you want to come in there on anything on this?
I really think Eileen and Mags have hit the nail on the head, and with different approaches as well. Um, you know, finding your tribe, that is, and I think Kevin, you're already trying to do that, which is great. But maybe there's a few tribes out there that are going to suit you as well. You know, maybe there's a few different areas that are going to suit your lifestyle. But yeah, it can be hard when you're on your own. Definitely, yeah.
Thanks, Nikki. And yeah, just Kevin says, just yes, I'm trying to be happy in my own company. It's a journey for sure. It sure is, Kevin. Amen to that. At least I can say this better now than a year. I'm so glad that it's better for you now. That's great. And again, Kevin, thanks for sharing, because we always say, like, if you're feeling that, believe me, somebody else in the room is feeling that too, and I can certainly connect with that. So thanks for that. We've got another, sorry, I just, yeah, got another question here, I think. Yes, more reflection, but absolutely on the button. And thank you for sharing. I find that my diet changes during summer. Strawberries and cream, quiche and salads, nutrition plays a big part in our well-being. Absolutely. And do you find that seems to be obviously a lighter style diet is helpful? And again, in terms of our panelists, do you feel that that the nutrition piece can really be helpful, maybe to give you energy, or is that something that you've experienced? Nikki, I know you're shaking your head there. Is that something you'd like to come in on?
It definitely helps me keep on a certain track over the summer. You know, there's no big fuss with meals because I find that it's chaotic. And Eileen, you were saying earlier about how women are 4 times more likely to suffer from SAD. And I think there's a large demographic there of mothers who are dealing with the chaos of having kids off for the summer and maybe possibly working as well. And even if you're not working, how to keep them happy. So you're constantly planning every single day. You're planning everything. You're trying to fill their day. You're trying to logistically maybe manage work as well or something like that. Feed them, shopping, meal planning, whilst also going out and doing all these activities. So I think that for me, it's simpler eating in the summer. It's simple, fresh food, and there's no big like 2 hour meals really. So for me, that definitely helps just logistically with all the chaos that's in there. And then, yeah, you feel better about yourself when you're eating well, of course.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's a kind of nice segue into another question. We've kind of already hit on it, but I suppose I'd like us to try and, if we can, focus on what we could maybe do about it, because what's come up again and again is that kind of almost unrealistic expectations of what summer should look like or feel like, or how you should experience it. And particularly when it comes to this idea of the kind of the mythical summer holiday, it's a bit like if we reverse it into winter, we have the Christmas holidays, you know, and all the expectations and fanfare that go about with that. Any ideas on how, you know, you can deal with that, like on a personal level, you know, if you're experiencing all this stress and pressure from others and even from yourself, anything practical you can do you think? Yeah, Nikki, would you like to come in?
I'd like to come in, yeah. Thanks,
Please,
Margaret.
yeah.
Well, for me, you know, in my experience, I've tried a few things over the years. Um, I suppose the first thing that stands out for me and the thing that I found the most helpful thing was where I was feeling like my summers don't belong to me because every single free piece of time is being filled by other people's things around me, which is great. I love spending time with my family and friends, but I also really enjoy time on my own. I like downtime, and I find I have no downtime in the summer. So what I started doing a couple of years ago was maybe come around March, April time, I would start to just go to my calendar, whether you've got a physical calendar or a diary, or you've got a Google calendar, whatever it is, and I would just block out weekends or days here and there just for me time. I would just block it out, or I would say I'm away, just so that when someone says, what are you doing the third weekend in July? Let's do something, let's go away. I'll look at my calendar and say, I can't that weekend. Because also I have a history of people pleasing, and I will say yes to everything because I find it hard to say no, especially if I have nothing else on. So that's one thing I would do. I would fill my calendar with my own stuff ahead of time. And if the time comes and it doesn't suit and the weather's poor and you don't want to do it, then fine, you can cancel it. But to try and carve out time over the summer well ahead of time, that's one of my things that I've used. I'm just looking to my notes now. Also, I would say, yes, holiday wise, there can be pressure to go on holidays, to go abroad from your partner or family maybe want to go on a holiday with you, and they're asking you months in advance, let's do a summer holiday, let's go. And maybe that's your worst nightmare, but maybe you find it hard to say no. So what I would say is just be honest with those people that this isn't really something that you would enjoy. It's not really your favorite way to spend the summer. You get anxiety around going abroad, maybe it's too hot, and just come to a compromise. Maybe try camping in Ireland. I don't know. Go to, just try to come to some kind of a compromise if it's a thing that you do hate, this big holiday. Maybe that's not for everybody, but a lot of people are pressured into it. And then my third coping skill is that just not to project too far into the future. What I do is I just take it week by week. I'm trying my best not to think about the middle of August, what I'm doing when. I'm just taking it, the week that I'm in is what I'm looking at, and I try not to look further than that.
Brilliant, Nikki. And I suppose what I loved about that was particularly, that early strategy is almost like reclaiming your summers, reclaiming your time, and how important that is. And that takes, it speaks to boundaries as well. And,
Yes.
and having those conversations. I mean, just in terms of having those conversations, and you touched on it there, and if anybody wants to come in on this, please jump in. But like, how would you broach that? So it's not even just the holidays, just an event or something. And really, it's not your bag. It's going to put pressures. Maybe it's even this triggering stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Spending time with family might be a trigger for you. Any ideas on how you can have those kind of conversations that they're helpful?
Really for me, it has been about rejigging other people's expectations of me and going through a period of uncomfortability where I know this isn't going to land well, and I feel uncomfortable because this is not like me to not people please. I feel uncomfortable to say no to things, but I decided that I was going to stop making excuses. So I don't have an excuse to replace that event with. I just don't want to go because it's not my thing. And to sit with the uncomfortability is going to pass. And the more you say it and the more you own your own time, the easier it gets. And also those people, their expectations will change over time, and they'll say, okay, look, that's just her thing now. She's not into that. So let's just, after a while, that period passes and it does become just normal life again, So I would just say sit with it.
I'm going to take that and put it in my back pocket, Nikki. Sit with the uncomfortability.
Yeah.
It's the way to do it, but we're just not. It's particularly if you're a people pleaser. If you want,
it's hard.
It's hard. It is very hard. Has anybody actually tried to do that? And again, even people listening, if you want to put into the Q&A, have you done that? Have you pushed back? And how have you found it? How have you dealt with that? Eileen, do you want to come in there?
Yeah. I've definitely, it's funny, since starting ARIES, I think one of the first workshops we had was Let's Talk Anxiety. And I remember saying, well, knowing logically here, saying no is saying yes to yourself. But thankfully this work makes you very accountable. And, we are lucky enough every week we get to tell our own story within our work. And also we get to obviously face-to-face community, all this kind of stuff. And for me, that accountability piece has been massive in my life, because I would say I've read every self-help book. I knew everything logically. And I thought, that's great. I'll put that on the shelf and then I'll be the people pleaser and not live my life like that. And I've definitely, this work has actually changed me. I would say I have probably a lot less friends in doing this, in saying no, full stop, no, in saying I'll get back to you, which means no, all of that stuff. And I found all those people have fallen away, which, yeah, there's been a loss in that. I'm not going to say there hasn't been. There has been a loss, but then I'm also intelligent enough to know, well, I was meeting a need for people and I'm not meeting that need anymore. So, and then that's fine. And then that there's growth in that as well. It does take practice. Like Nikki said, it does get easier. I suppose a little warning as well, because sometimes there's been a loss and some of those losses have been harder to, you know, accept than others, that, you know, you've changed. I know since I heard about Erickson all them years ago, I'm just obsessed with all those stages of development, and we change so much from our 20s to our 30s to our 40s, where I am at the minute. And I know there's all transitions and there's shifts in family, there's shifts in work, all of those stuff. And I used to be clinging on to dear life when things were good, and I wanted that, and probably not good in those transitions. And I suppose there's an acceptance a lot more of that now, that yeah, I will change, people around me change, but that's okay. And I suppose one thing on the boundaries I just wanted to add was, for me, I was always outward facing. And, you know, whether it's when, you know, when we're looking at seasonal change or my own anxiety or my own, you know, own life, that actually going inwards for me, that's the next journey. That's like the next, you know, being really joyful when I'm on my own, really honoring my own time and not feeling, you know, to be totally honest, you know, before, if I was on my own, I'd feel like, oh, alone, lonely. But I realize I can be lonely in a group as opposed to feeling alone. And I suppose that's where I am now. I can actually feel my most at peace and my most myself when I am in nature with my dog. And I suppose it's such changes. I know it's got off piece, Margaret, the boundaries piece, but it is like that. It's like, and it's values as well, I think, in your boundaries, just to finish on. For me, that's an exercise I always do. It's like, what are my values now? You know, what do I want? What does Eileen want? No, what does everybody else want of me? What do I want and what do I need? And I think that's, if you're struggling with boundaries, it's a good exercise to do, actually, just write down, what are my values? So thanks, Margaret.
Eileen, you didn't go off piste at all. This is all part of this great conversation, because this is a complicated, complex area. I absolutely love that, and that journey into that struck me from that. Again, what I'll take from you is that journey into myself, and that in itself can be a holiday. Go in and the guided discovery of you, you know, and what means to you. I found as I've grown older, because again, a bit like that, I was people pleasing, life and soul of the party, very, very sociable, lots of friends. As I get older, that has shrunk. But because of those boundaries being put in place, just as Eileen, as you've said, but the people who stay around and stick around are the ones really who get it, and that you then are part of their support network. It's not like, you know, it's this thing of, you know, radiators and drains. I try to surround myself with radiators, and because for a very long time I was surrounding myself with drains, and I hope to God I'm not a drain on anybody else. But anyway, you have definitely, Eileen, with all of that said, you've obviously struck a chord with people, because we've got a couple of responses here. So the price of people pleasing is your authenticity. Say no and yes to yourself. Love it, love it, love it. Another comment here, I'm finding the loss of friends really hard. Yeah, it is difficult. I know they say people are loyal to the need of you rather than just being loyal to me. And again, it's loss of friends and loss of connection. It's really tough. It's really, really tough. Another one here, just isolation can be empowering and you discover your purpose. Okay, so that is that light and dark of being being alone, but being comfortable in our bodies, in our head, in our mind, and be happy by yourself is a real strength. Absolutely. I suppose what I've discovered is when it's imposed on you, isolation, I think that's very difficult to deal with and break out. But if it's a choice, it's really empowering. That's the kind of difference I would say. Mags, I'm going to come to you. There's been a lot kind of discussed around that kind of, you know, I suppose coping piece, boundaries piece, you know, managing our expectations and particularly managing the expectations of others. And so for you, maybe coming into the summer months, so if you're, you know, getting prepared for the summer months, is there anything that you do just to make sure that you're going to look after yourself and that your needs are going to be met, that you're not out there, you know, providing everybody else with what they need?
Well, I suppose for my other small bit of a job, I'm just busy during the summer months. So I suppose yeah, I'm people pleasing for that a small bit, but I've drawn back a good bit for that. Planning for the summer months, it's just, I suppose, as I said, the other job, it fills my weeks. I really don't take summer. I really don't go away. I might take a day away. It doesn't really bother me. I prefer to go away in the winter time when it's a bit quieter. But I suppose I try and have projects at home as well. That's what I try to do to fill in my time, because I think the best thing is to be doing something. So usually during the summer, the certain amount of stuff gets painted here every year. So that's kind of, I haven't even lifted a brush yet this year because of the weather, but that's usually what I try and fill my time in. And I don't like the heat of the summer, but I do like the summer. As I think maybe Margaret, somebody mentioned it, there's expectations there, and I do notice people are in better form and are even I suppose I say last week I went on a journey to Cork City. I had to go to Cork for something, and I met so many people on that journey, and I was on my own. But it's just, I always talk to strangers. Strangers talk to me. I don't know what it is, but I just find that fascinating. You'll always meet somebody to talk to you as well. So I just find that taking a day out for yourself is great, and taking time out for yourself is great. But I suppose, as we always say, there's other people try and get into your time as well. So I actually noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, my time is my time. It's valuable to me. So who I spend it with is valuable as well. So that's the way I look at it at the moment, that if my time is valuable to me, I'll only spend it with people that mean a lot to me. So that's what I try and do.
Definitely, Mags. And again, anybody else wants to come in that in terms of that preparation piece, particularly if you find the summertime just difficult, like, you know, that's going to be a difficult time for you. And I think what I love about this is that those kind of coping strategies can be used for any time of the year. If you find the things that are happening that are particularly difficult for you, maybe it might be an anniversary, maybe it's the summertime, maybe it's the heat, it's the sleep disruption, it's that expectation. Anybody else want to come in on that preparation piece?
Do you mean, Margaret, how to prepare for?
Yeah, just in terms of, if you know, like, obviously, if you know you have, it doesn't have to be sad, it doesn't have to be the full-blown thing, but you know, I really find this tricky, I find this difficult. Is there anything we can do in terms of the planning piece? Now, you already mentioned, Nikki, maybe preparing your diary, making sure you're managing the expectations piece. So but is there anything else, do you think, that that people could be doing in terms of the coping?
For me, I have learned the hard way over the last several years now that the best thing that has helped me cope with any difficult part of my life, whatever it might be, is honesty. Like, really, and I know that can be awful hard, and it was for me. I used to be somebody who would just say, "Isn't it great? Yeah, I love the summer. It's great. I love this weather." And inside, I'd be thinking, "I'm the only person who hates this," you know. But now I just find that part of part of being able to cope with it is by accepting it. And by accepting it, how do I accept it? I share this with people around me. You know, I'll tell them I don't particularly enjoy you know, like, say we've had a holiday recently, and I was just honest with my family. There was a group of us, and everyone was looking forward to it, and I was saying, you know, I wouldn't be booking a holiday abroad in the summer personally if it was just me. I'm just going because you guys are going and because I have to do this. you know, I had a great time, but I think I was able to relax in it because I was honest about it, and they all knew where I was coming from. Whereas before, I would never have said that. I would never have been honest. So for me, just being honest, just say it, just call it what it is.
Yeah, and it is that say it to tame it. It's just, and as you said, obviously, what was really interesting, Nikki, you still went on the holiday. You knew it was like, this really isn't my deal. But, but once they knew that, and they know they, give Nikki a bit of space if, it's brilliant just having that honesty. But obviously you trust them enough that you can say that, and that's really good. I'm just laughing at this this is so good. A little reflection here. So some employers call holidays annual leave. It's a bit military in my humble opinion. Holidays sound jollier. It's so true. Annual leave, like and I think when you're on that almost, the kind of, we're very busy during the summer. Well, as we say, mental health doesn't take a break. So neither do we. We're always working. We're not, we are a service, and I have to say, and I'm not just saying because they're here, but the facilitators do an amazing job because they are working constantly throughout the summer, facilitating online with workshops, as I said, going into the acute psychiatric units, and face-to-face, they do it all. But so we do actually call it annual leave as well. But you're right. Yeah, go and take a break. That's what it sounds like. So thank you for that. I suppose this came up when we were kind of discussing around what we were going to talk about. And because there are different kind of stresses and strains over summer, and this is something that's quite relevant at the moment, but, obviously there's extreme weather events happening all throughout Europe at the moment. And that can be triggering for people. It can be really difficult. And people can find it just very distressing. A lot of information overload. Again, anybody want to come in on that piece in terms of if that is the thing that really, is upsetting you, or just, and Eileen, I think you want to come in there if you want to just speak to that.
Yeah, I was kind of, I suppose it's been on my mind a lot, and I suppose just to share, I was in doing a yoga course the previous weekend, and I suppose it just came up about, obviously, the changes of seasons is very relevant for this webinar, but also, the climate events have really changed. And they've really changed, drastically in the last 2 years. And I'm someone who's an anxious person anyway. And I suppose just hearing it from different sources, as opposed to in a different country and speaking to different people who were also, some of them were working in government jobs in the UK, and just hearing even from the director of that, it's like, well, we need to do something, whether it is about, there is solutions there. And I suppose my frustration lies, okay, we live in a capital society, but where is the line? And my anxiety then just kind of is like, what do? I get frustrated if I'm buying fruit and veg and it's covered in plastic and I'm trying to be healthy, and all of this stuff, like, I find really frustrating, that, so all of those. And then I suppose, what do I do about it? Because that can really overwhelm me, to be totally honest. Because there are solutions out there, but they don't suit probably lots of governments, and they don't suit business. So what do we do as people? Like, and I do feel like sometimes like, oh, what am I doing here? I'm trying to recycle, I'm trying to do these different things. But I suppose I was thinking about this question last night, and I was thinking, okay, like, well, what do I do? And I think actually what I do now is my little garden outside. It's organic. I try and create this little oasis for birds, foxes, everything to come in there. I'm trying to keep I realize actually it's so overwhelming, and it does get in on me. But the only thing I can do actually is mind my own little patch and do my own little thing. And I suppose the person on the weekend, because this question came up, and I suppose this is why it was in my mind, was, well, what can we do? Actually, all we can do is our little bit. And if everybody does a little bit, maybe there's going to be change. But it's those small bits, and I suppose it's bringing it back. Because yeah, I'll be honest, I do feel quite privileged in a way that, like, I do have a home and I do have a garden. Like, when I was looking at the news and I'm seeing people in Donegal completely flooded, and houses being at risk, and then, you know, thinking about people who don't have homes and refugees here and homes, all of that stuff. You know, on one hand, I feel very lucky, but on the other hand, I think I should be doing more. And I think for me, yeah, I do struggle with it. I'm not going to say that I have the answers in this one. I don't, but I do feel like more and more I need to be doing more in my own little community and in my own way. So yeah,
I think
Margaret, it's a bit of a, it is a heavy topic.
it is a heavy topic, and for
Sorry.
anyone out there who's feeling it at the minute, it is it's tough. I know even from my own perspective, I have my son is living in Japan at the moment, and they've had really extreme temperatures, and you know, and I worry for him in that. So there's lots of different, but like I love the fact that you've just brought all that into the quiet of your garden. And again, I'd be big into the garden myself. I think when those things are overwhelming, what I do is I find those bits that bring me joy, but are also helping in their own little way to solve the problem. Bit like the gardening. I have actually last night, it was just amazing. Anybody who has a pot, put some, they're called stock plants, STOCK. The smell of them in the evening time is just, it's like just like perfume. And I put them at the doorway. So when you open the door, I even have a window open next to the door, and you just get this flood of perfume. And it's like, you know, particularly when the sun's coming out at the end. And I think, Mags, you were saying earlier in terms of like you enjoy that summer piece. Do you know what I love about that summer piece is the light. It's not the heat, it's the light. That's what I enjoy, is that extra light into the back of our eyes. Again, Eileen, you've touched on something here, because somebody's just kind of reflected. I went to a conference on climate change. I cried for days afterwards. They did showcase some possible solutions. And that's the thing. We need to focus on what we can do as individuals in our own little patches, Eileen said, not just for this, but everything in our life, that personal responsibility bit. But I think in terms of that information overload, particularly it's everywhere at the moment, how to manage that. Look at our look at how we use social media, whatever information we get, just to make sure that it's correct, and also not to be hung up on it, like, you know, watching and rewatching, or in that way. But thanks for sharing that. I know that's a difficult piece for you, Eileen, and I do appreciate you sharing it. Just looking at the time there, and I suppose this time just flies by, it just goes so quick. But there's a couple of things I want to kind of cover. Equally, if you've got anybody else who's got reflections or questions, now's the time to get them in, because again, and thank you to everybody who has put something in the Q&A. It's really helped to drive the conversation, and it's lovely to have it interactive. Nikki, I'm going to come to you, and not because I think you kind of already mentioned it already. But again, it's that piece of, because again, this happened with the seasonal webinar piece as well, is like when you're leaving. I know somebody was saying that, you know, it's that summer solstice piece. They know at that point it's heading into the winter, even though this is the middle of summer. They're already thinking that's the you know, I'm concerned now. I'm worried. I know I'm going to have problems. But there's lots of things, particularly for families coming around, you know, this time of the year. They're thinking kids going back to school. The cost of it is number one, even though I know there's supposed to be free school books and all that kind of stuff, but uniforms and just the anxiety. It could be a new school, it could be a new start, could be college, it could be college fees, all of those things. Just from a family perspective and the stress that comes with that, Nikki, any ways to cope or just reflections on it?
I do think it's a big one. I mean, I hear it myself amongst my friends who are also mammies. It'll start now in another probably week, the kind of chitter chatter about, oh no, the cost, the finances, the uniforms, the books, all of these things. Um, I mean, it's hard to avoid it. You can't avoid these costs. You've got kids going back to school. But what I would say is, you know, one idea I have here, if you're somebody who could get together with even one more person, like I find my community that I'm in here is unbelievable. It's just amazing. And the community has come up with ways of helping each other out with this stuff. For example, we have a uniform sale at the end of the school year. So everyone drops in good quality uniform stuff, and the Parents Association lay everything out on tables, and then you come in and you'll spend, I think it's €5 for a crested jumper, €2 for trousers, €2 for a t-shirt. And with the stuff that's there, you can easily have your uniform set then for August. So um, it sounds small, but like those jumpers are €30 each. And if you've got a kid like mine, he needs 4 or 5 of them a week because he just dirties everything. It's a lot of money. It is an awful lot of money. So it's kind of about trying to maybe come together with other people in the community and try and just kind of thrash around some ideas and brainstorm like, what can we do here? What are the things I can't control? Okay. They're over there. I can't control them. I'm going to list them and see, can I budget for them? But I can't control them. What can I control? And look at those things that you can control and then try get together with people and brainstorm it and come up with solutions. You know, okay, we're in the middle of July now. It's not going to happen for August this year, but maybe next year there could be a plan in place. You could have just all it takes is 2 or 3 people to come together for something to really snowball. And that's what happens in my village all the time.
And that's brilliant, Nikki. And that sense of community, it's amazing. And, you know, if it's not happening where you are, as you said, if you can try and, you know, make it happen. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I think where social media can help. If it's in a larger town, maybe, or something like that. We certainly did it in my children's secondary school, which was a huge help, was that swap piece.
Yeah. I
Made a
think you'll
huge
find
difference.
that you'll think, oh, they're going to think I'm, you'll be thinking, oh, if I put myself out there and if I say this to other mammies, they'll think that I don't have any money. They'll think these things about me. You'll find that so many people will have been wishing for this to happen. They'll have been
Yeah.
wanting it so badly. People generally love when stuff like this happens and they just throw themselves at it. And people are dying to help out as well, you know?
Brilliant,
So,
Nikki. And that's
yeah.
really that's a really practical piece. Looking at the time there, what I'm going to do is just share a bit of signposting. We're kind of in the last final minutes. Lads, I'm going to come back to you. Mags, I'm going to come back to you first after I've done the bit of signposting. And it's that one piece of advice. Just a thought, could be even a word that you think just that people can kind of take away with them. So while you're thinking of that as a panel, I am going to just share, and hopefully this will work, just a bit of signposting. We've already mentioned the fact, and I'd say quite a few here already come to our workshops, but if you don't, we would love to see you. We adopt a hybrid approach in terms of our recovery education workshops. We're online, we're face-to-face in the community, and we also have some self-paced courses available. This is our online timetable, so a bit like this, you register either with myself or online through Eventbrite. And by the way, you'll get a copy of these slides, so you'll have all that information, so you don't necessarily need to take any information down. They're the ones that we're running for August, so it's everything from managing well-being, depression, and keeping connected, which you know, that isolation piece it addresses, resilience, and creativity for well-being that Mags was talking about. Lots and lots of bits and pieces there. This is just a couple of examples of our online self-paced course. They're available 24/7 and are available from any device. They're kind of putting in your hand what you need when you need it. That's the idea anyway. First one is a relaunch of our Understanding Acute Mental Health Services for Families, Carers and Supporters. That is a really detailed I suppose it's a guide really to the acute psychiatric services, and what's absolutely brilliant is there's a lot of video content in there. You see a walkthrough through the acute psychiatric unit in 5B. There's a very detailed role play with a family member and key worker asking key questions. There you get to see the staff and who they are and what they do and how they support your loved one. Great information on admission, patients' rights, information sharing, the whole gamut. That's there available. And again, if you want that little bit of self-care and you're struggling with it, we have a really detailed self-care course covering physical, emotional, social and intellectual wellness and how you can do that. Whole idea is to build your own self-care toolkit. So I know I'm barreling through these. Next month, we've got a really good webinar, an excellent webinar that's going to be focused on that food and exercise bit. Interesting, the food piece came up today, and it'll be hosted by Killian. So does it really help, Killian, who's our peer education training development officer? So does it exercise and food and exercise, does it really help my mental health? And look at we kind of know it does, but we explore it in greater detail and give practical guidance on that. We actually have a nutritionist involved in that. And then if you want to kind of just keep up with us, we're across all social media. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And by the way, this has been recorded, so we will have this on YouTube, available on YouTube by the end of the week or early next week, and also on our podcast channel called The Wellness Panel. It has changed slightly. We used to host on Anchor FM, but Anchor FM has been now bought up by Spotify, so it's a bit of a longer link, but you'll get this in the learner pack, along with the details of our manager, myself, and Killian, our details there. And also we do run these in conjunction with Mental Health Ireland, and I'll send you the details of this. This is the Development Officer contact, Claire Flynn, from Mental Health Ireland. So if you want to contact her and get some information and great resources on mental health, that's there as well. So I'm going to stop the share. We are just coming to the end, and I'm just going to go, and if you can keep it brief, because I know people probably have to leave, and thanks for staying. Mags, coming to you for say your goodbyes and your one piece of advice, please.
Yeah, really enjoyed the chat and the questions today. I suppose my one piece of advice, I was just thinking there, I've kind of suffer a small bit with social anxiety, but sometimes it's nice to come out of your comfort zone to maybe push yourself a small bit. I did it for a barbecue that was on a few weeks ago, and I really enjoyed myself and waiting to be invited again. So yeah, so it's just maybe give yourself an opportunity, push yourself out of your comfort zone. So thanks, Margaret.
Love it, Mags. Love it. Eileen, you're up next.
One piece of advice would be just to accept how you're feeling. Big fan of journaling, write it down and plan for better days.
Again, love it. Comfort zone and plan for better days. Nikki, are you going to top that?
No, but anyway, I'm going to say focus on what you can control, and also focus on the week that's coming ahead of you. Yeah, coming towards you, and try not to project too much into the future.
Absolutely. They are absolutely solid pieces of advice that I know I'll be putting in my back pocket and using it. And with that in mind, 3:01, I just want to say a sincere thanks. It's not easy doing this stuff, rocking up and having these conversations. It really isn't. But I just want to say sincere thanks to our facilitators for their honesty, openness, and just, yeah, for the chat. Loved having you here, and yeah, hope to catch up with you soon at a webinar again. And also a big, huge thank you to the participants, everybody who came along today and shared their insights, thoughts, and added questions again. We wish you all the best. And whatever you do today, I know it's raining, and you might be comfortable in that rain. It might be lovely, for you. But whatever you do, be kind to yourself. Eileen has just done a massive favor. Thanks, Eileen, for putting in. I completely forgot about it and all the hoo-ha. If you can, Midwest ARIES lives or dies by the feedback from people who attend our courses and webinars. Please just spend a little bit of time giving us that feedback, good or bad. We need to know it. So if it literally only takes a couple of minutes, and we would really appreciate you taking the time to do that. You can open it up in, click on that link now, and you can go straight there. But other than that, I just want to say a big thank you, and yeah, take care of yourself, and hope to see you again soon online, whether it's at our workshops or even face-to-face. And do check out the webinar for next month. I think it's going to be a really good one. So with that in mind, everybody want to say goodbye?
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Elaine. Bye, Mags. And thank you so much. We just got to thank you in there.